Welcome to Experts Explain Trauma. Today we've got Bev Mitelman joining us to answer common questions that survivors have about attachment styles. And she'll also be giving us tips to help us on our healing journey. Okay, Bev, here's our question. What are the biggest challenges when trying to unlearn an insecure attachment style? And I love that. Unlearn. We're not stuck with it. We're not stuck with it.
No, you're not. And it's a well-phrased question because attachment styles are learned behavior. So, it's not a mental illness. It's not a mood disorder. Everyone has an attachment style. And that's just the way in which we interact and form emotional bonds with other people. So, the challenge really is always to undo our patterns, right? So we tend to do a lot of things on a behavioral front on autopilot, right? We talked about how most of our patterns of behavior are stored in the subconscious mind, and we do things on autopilot. So think about all of the things that you do, and when you wake up in the morning, you don't even think about brushing your teeth, showering. You don't think about making your coffee. You do it all the time. A lot of times you zone out when you're driving because you're going to the same place. So what we're trying to do is break a pattern, right? Now, the older you are, obviously, the more you've been sort of embedded into this pattern. Can it be broken? It can be, but it's a little challenging.
More challenging.
Challenging, right? Because we tend to get firmer in our belief that our thinking is accurate as we get older.
And the evidence shows us that we're right.
So it's this loop. If we spend our entire lifetime looking for evidence to validate what we already believe is right, now we've collected all this evidence, and now you can't prove to me that I'm wrong, right? So breaking some of those patterns is really, really difficult. But so that's all it is introducing a new way of thinking and introducing, a new way of behaving. And it's very similar to people, for example, who have tried to change their eating habits, right? And we see this a lot. They might, for example, for a week, just eat salads. And then by, 2 weeks, they're back to eating cake for breakfast because because they tried really too hard. It wasn't sustainable, right? And then they sort of fall off the wagon. So we don't want to do that. What we want to do is make incremental changes. So instead of eating cake every day for breakfast, maybe we'll just have cake for breakfast on Saturdays if that's something that you really love, and the rest of the days we're going to eat a proper meal. So we want to introduce these changes slowly. We don't want to tackle everything at once, meaning when we talk about changing our thought patterns, we do that in relation to our triggers. And so we mentioned earlier that we have various different triggers, right? So I may have, 5 or 6 core triggers, but 3 of them really get to me and the other 3 less. You may have only 4 triggers, right? So we don't want to tackle all of these at the same time. We want to look at the one that is really sort of impacting us the most today. And sort of tackle that one first, because we want to start feeling the small wins. So it's sort of like when you go to the gym, same thing. I've used this example before. Once you start seeing the results, like you start going, oh, I do feel a bit stronger. That's motivation.
It
right?
is. Yeah. You go and you're like, oh, I can move my weights up now too.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, I like how this feels. I feel good in my body. And so we want to make incremental changes and celebrate those small wins. And so even if that's like, I still got triggered when someone said they didn't like my outfit, for example, but not as triggered as I did last month when that happened. And you know what? I was able to come back to baseline after 5 minutes instead of it letting it ruin my entire day.
That's a big one for me, that I can calm myself down so much quicker. I can catch it and calm myself down so much quicker.
Yes. Isn't that such a gift that you're giving to yourself?
Yeah, because I would spend days messed up and upset.
Yeah.
Days. Now I spent minutes.
Right. And that's what That's why I do this work. That's what I want everyone to understand, is that you can learn to do, and this is real, that's the objective, right? Because when you're able to calm yourself down relatively quickly, you can then go on and enjoy the rest of the day. And your body is no longer staying in that hyper threatened state of fight or flight. So much research right now, and Dr. Gabor Mate talks about how when the body stays in its sympathetic nervous system mode, which is the fight or flight, that chronic stress, that there's a lot of research now suggesting that leads to chronic illnesses, to cancer,
autoimmune diseases. Yeah.
I'm not the first one that's going to say that leads to heart attacks. That's well known.
Yeah.
Stroke. And by the way, we do know that women are far more at risk for autoimmune disease than men. And so, the research is starting to look at why. Is it biology? Is it emotion? Is it somatic? Is it environment? And there's really some strong research to suggest that if we spend too much time in fight or flight, that chronic stress does real harm to our body. And so what we need to learn to do as people is to move through these difficult emotions in a more fluid way and come back to baseline so that you enjoy life, that you feel calm and happy, that you can be in the present moment, right? Because I spent many years in a chronic fight or flight, and I would wake up in the morning and nothing happened, but I was like, my anxiety was already like an 8 or 9 out of 10. Nothing's happened yet in the day.
Yeah, you haven't even put your feet on the floor.
I'm revving, and I can tell you, it doesn't feel good.
No.
Right. And if I compare that to what I know feels like a calm state now, it just, whatever challenges you're faced with, trust me, the benefit is so much greater.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I think back, because I can think back to those states and just how that felt.
Mm-hmm.
And then how I'm living my life now. So I'm a great example of someone who has learned how to live differently and to get away from my anxious attachment style and understanding it. And it's so, what I found in doing all my research on trauma is one of the things that they say is, understanding trauma and all of its effects is your superpower. And it is, because once I realized, oh, that behavior that I'm doing is caused by that's so empowering. All of a sudden I have control over it, and I'm not the crazy person anymore. I'm doing that for a reason. Even though when I'm acting out, I know it's not okay, but I couldn't stop it. It was such a mind bender. And now it's like, oh, I do that because of my past trauma in that one event. And I don't have to do that anymore. Like it detaches it from me, if that makes sense.
It does. And yeah, of course it makes sense. But also when you have this level of awareness and authenticity comes with that too, right? Is that if you feel that you have a really strong emotion coming up, you can communicate that. Like even when you move towards secure attachment, you'll still get triggered, but less so. And for me, healing or moving towards healing was about getting to a place of, instead of just fleeing, because I'm far more on the avoidance side, instead of just like leaving the room, actually turn to my partner or a friend and go, I need 5 minutes alone. I'm just going to go outside. And take 5 or 10 minutes and be authentic and say, I'm just feeling a little anxious. And when you can do that, your friend's going to say, of course, take time, no problem, right? And then usually you're able to talk yourself down. And so you can, sometimes you'll find yourself going back to old patterns and behaviors in a different way, which is it doesn't mean you have to never do that thing again. Like when I was trying to introduce better eating habits into my life, I do have an absolute sweet tooth. So like I love ice cream. Like I have a real hard time giving it up. So the idea of giving up ice cream altogether, it's like daunting. And I keep a little pint in my freezer, and when I'm like, I'm really in the mood for some ice cream, I allow myself to dip into that, but like 3 or 4 spoonfuls.
Right, right. And you're satisfied.
And I'm satisfied and I put it back and that's it, right? Instead of, saying, okay, I can no longer do this or I can no longer use that coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Like you just modify the behavior so that it's not extreme or it's not unhealthy, right? Because running away from your emotions is unhealthy. Eating an entire pint of ice cream in one sitting is unhealthy. So you're looking for that moderation.
I love that you shared that because so often I used to think, oh, I just can't do that anymore, period. And that's another thing that I've learned to implement in my life is just balance. It's like, I love chips. That's my thing. Chips. Give me a bag of chips.
Yeah.
I'm the crunchy, salty person.
Yeah.
And so I've learned, like, I still allow myself chips, but I don't sit and eat half a bag of chips in a sitting anymore. But you know what? If I do, it's okay. If I do, there's a moment, but I don't. I allow myself a little bit to get that little satisfaction. Crunch. Yeah, the crunch and the satisfaction, and then I'm fine. But I'm also much further along on my healing journey than I used to be, where before, one chip led to me finishing the bag, right?
Of course, yeah.
But it's just the thing that you've said numerous times in a different way, but we just need to take baby steps, just look at situations, be curious about it and find a different way to work around it rather than cutting it off or the other thing is I would beat myself up.
Yeah, and this is the thing is that we're so good at beating ourselves up, but and it's easier said than done, but you can flip the script. Right. So instead of, I'll use myself on the ice cream, instead of me going, oh gosh, I shouldn't have had ice cream, I can flip the script and I go, I really wanted ice cream. I only had 4 scoops. I did well.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't eat the whole pint. I just had 4 scoops and that's okay.
And that's okay.
It's just balance.
Oh my God, I can't believe I reached for the ice cream again. The narrative is I only had 4 scoops and I put it back. I'm good.
Yeah,
I feel
good. And there's nothing wrong with having 4 scoops.
Right. I mean, 4 spoonfuls, I mean. I like not.
Yeah, I know scoops. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, the spoonfuls, yeah. That big scooper.
The massive scooper.
Yeah, that'd be good, right?
Okay.
A lot of balance. So, there's one thing that you said during our podcast that I think was really relevant is you wish everybody understood their attachment style because their life would be so much easier. And it's so true. I literally, when you said that, I meditated on that all night long. And I thought, you know what? You're right. You're right. If we understood our attachment style and if we're on the insecure side, okay, I'm facing the fact that I have an insecure attachment, but I can unlearn that and learn how to do a secure attachment style.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think for a lot of us, we don't understand our behaviors and our thoughts. We've never learned emotional regulation. We've never learned, some of us never really learned the healthy way to interact with others because it depends on, the home you were in. Right. So I often say that some kids come out of a home where they learn how to cook, and some kids come out of a home where they don't learn how to cook. And the same is true with emotional regulation. And, so that's really key. I wish they taught it in schools.
I really wish they did too. I think it's so important.
It's a life skill, right?
It is. It is.
So, yeah, these folks who are on the insecure attachment style, the one common core wound that they have is I am unsafe. So whether you're anxious, avoidant, or somewhere in between, there's this feeling of I am unsafe. And so you develop a set of coping strategies to survive,
And to make
not
yourself feel safe, right?
to make yourself feel safe, right? And that might be becoming extremely pleasant and over congenial to everyone, so you're liked. That's one way of keeping yourself safe. Another way of keeping yourself safe might be to isolate and not let people close to you, not, because you're afraid of sharing vulnerability, giving people access to you. That's another way to keep yourself safe. So all of these behaviors are they're maladaptations. Right. And so, yes, to go full circle with the original question, you can unlearn this stuff.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, that's the thing that was a big aha moment for me, is understanding that these behaviors are not me.
Yeah,
I'm doing these behaviors from something that happened to me. Now that I have that knowledge, I do need to work on that and change that. But for so many years, I would do these behaviors and just beat myself up over it and didn't understand why I was doing it and knew it was wrong, but I couldn't help myself. So understanding where it comes from and why, it gave me space between the behavior and me. It was no longer my identity.
yeah, that is so beautiful and such a great point. And shame is it's a huge motivator, right? Where there's one word that I try to avoid in the English language. The word is should.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, I think it carries so much guilt and so much shame, I should go work out. I should eat better. I
Or
should
I
lose.
shouldn't have done that.
I shouldn't have made that phone call. I shouldn't have lost my shit at the meeting. I shouldn't have, right? It's like,
Hmm.
but what it suggests is that in the moment, I should have behaved or made better choices, right? But you made the choice that you did, not at a conscious level. I've talked about this before. It's in your subconscious mind, because your conscious mind is really only governing your thoughts, emotions, behaviors for like 3 to 5% of the time. It's so small.
Wow.
What you're really doing is all of your emotions, thoughts, and behaviors are running on a program in your subconscious mind. So unless you update that programming, you will continue to make the same should mistakes over and over and over and over, right?
Yeah.
Because that's all you know.
Yep. Yep. That's
Yeah.
that wall in front of you and you can't see anything else.
Yes.
The saving grace, though, is you can go back and clean up your messes, though, because I've done that. You
Yeah, of
can
course.
go back, and that is one way. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to accept your explanation or your apology, but you've done your part, and that's part of the healing. Because I would do something foolish and hurt somebody, and would have so much shame that I wouldn't even think to apologize to him. But then I would, spend the next 2 weeks beating myself up over what I did, and then that relationship is damaged when it said, but I didn't have the awareness at the time either. So
Of
that's what
course.
I'm going to say. I didn't have the awareness at the time of understanding what was going on to know, oh, I should go over there and apologize to him. I just thought I was this hot mess and this is just how I am. And, maybe I just can't have anybody in my life. I went down that road. I'm just going to be alone because I'm just this hot mess. And that's
You
not
see,
true. That's not true.
so I am going to be alone. That's the core trigger,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I'm
The full
alone.
circle.
Or I'm unlovable, I'm unlikable,
Yep.
this is your thoughts are connected to those triggers.
Yep, exactly. So, and it was, and I used it as my evidence, right? It was my evidence because that's what I was looking for. See, here we go again. I screwed up another relationship. I did something stupid again and hurt somebody.
Bad.
I must be bad. I'm meant to be alone.
Yeah.
See, they can't like me. If they try to like me, look what I do. I mean, there was just all these
Right.
thoughts that would go through my head, and none of it was true. Yes, I made mistakes, but it came at that time purely from my trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the
I don't do it
way,
anymore. I don't do it anymore.
no, and that's the thing is that the behaviors change once you update the programming in your thought process, right?
Exactly.
And what
Exactly.
you're describing, I like to call a shame hangover. You do something,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
but then the next day you're like, oh my God, did I really do that? And
Yep.
then you're like, how do I make it better? But wait, I don't even want to face what I did. And so you think about it for 2 weeks. It's like the worst type of hangover.
It is. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, because I sit there and ruminate on, well, how could I fix it? Maybe if I call them and I do this, and I try to find all these ways that I could undo this mess that I just made. And sometimes I would act out on that and make it worse.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Because you didn't have the skills at that time to handle the situation properly in the first instance, but then you're with the same set of skills, not updated. You're trying to make it better, but you're not anymore adapt, right? Like,
Right. Right.
it doesn't, you just keep digging a bigger hole, right? So yes, it's emotional regulation, learning, learning these skills early on in life. They're really, really important.
And I think the real key, and we've talked about it so many times, is having the self-awareness, because the self-awareness is what causes me to put my brakes on. It causes me to take that pause and go, okay, wait a minute. I'm feeling something. Is this legitimate? Because I used to say, I'm feeling something. Is it valid, or is it just me acting out? Right. So that's kind of my go-to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's fair. My go-to is like if I'm feeling something, I immediately try to put it like on a scale. That's just the way my mind works.
Ah,
So am I feeling like if I'm feeling anxious, it's like a 2 out of 10. All right. If it starts escalating to a 5 out of 10, I know that it's hitting on something of mine. And I know my core wounds, right? My top core wound is I will be betrayed. So oftentimes, if I'm feeling some sort of reaction that's strong, a 5 or a 6, I know it's touching on something to do with trust.
ah,
So you can get to know yourself to that.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
so powerful. It's so powerful. If this question resonates with you, or you have a question for our experts, let us know in the comments, and make sure to follow so you can get more insights on trauma healing.